Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and today my guest is Tony Kozlowski. Tony is a Qigong exercise instructor and a Reiki therapist. Mm-hmm. Now, I think I saw your picture in the Penny Saver last fall. Do you know anything about that? When you were young, a picture of you when you were really young and in the service, apparently?
Oh, I was driving for Basil, the dealership down in Fredonia, and they did a spread, if you want to call it, of everybody who served in the service, and they wanted pictures that really aren't who we are today.
Well, it was a nice picture of you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to bring that up. Now, you call what you do vitamin Qi, your Qigong and your Reiki. How did that come about?
Vitamin Qi is a wonderful name thought up for this. I teach Qigong for the mediumship and healing school at the Fellowships of the Spirit, and they asked me if I would teach a class for each session. And this one man watched me teaching the Qigong, and he said, "Vitamin Qi." So it came out of his mouth, and he said, "Go ahead and use it."
So you use that for both the Qigong and the Reiki?
No,
just the
Qigong.
Qigong. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought I'd clarify that. Okay, now tell us what Qigong is. Some basic information about it.
Okay, well, Qi is a Chinese word for energy, our intrinsic, internal energy, and Gong means the results of working with or working with. So Qigong basically means working with your energy, working with your breath. And in the Chinese terms, all health comes from within rather than without. And they believe that sickness is caused by either too much energy in an area of the body or not enough. And what Qigong does, coupled with the breathing, is gets the energy flowing throughout your entire body. So let's say you may have an issue with too much energy in the kidneys, and what happens is this Qigong gets all the energy flowing and all the energy balanced within the body. And it's not immediate, but over a period of time, it balances the energy of every organ, every aspect of your physical being. That's just the Qi movement itself. And then when this style, there's a great emphasis on the diaphragmatic breathing or breath. And normally, in our normal breathing, we breathe upper chest. We don't fill the lower lobes of the lungs, nor do we empty them. And the diaphragmatic breathing that's taught in this style gets us totally filling the lungs because we drop the diaphragm. And as we do that, the lungs automatically fill. We don't have to draw energy or breath into ourselves. And when you exhale, you're exhaling right from the very bottom of the lungs, totally detoxing, totally getting rid of all impurities, all products of combustion within the body. So that's their theory. It's the deep breathing combined with the energy flow. And if I may demonstrate the diaphragmatic breathing, have you ever watched a baby breathe?
Yes.
What do you see moving when they breathe?
Their belly.
It's the diaphragm. They're breathing as nature intended them to breathe. Okay? I'm going to turn this way so the camera can see. And as I said earlier, I do have a bit of a belly here. However, I'm not forcing my belly out. I'm letting it out as I inhale. And watch the belly, if you would. And with that sort of emphasized diaphragmatic breathing, I'm getting maximum inhalation, maximum exhalation, maximum oxygenation to the cells rather, and maximum detoxing from the cells. So I'm really working, as I said earlier, the product of just activity, but by the breath. Also, when you consciously drop the diaphragm, you actually massage all of your internal organs. The heart, you help blood circulation. Anything in the body that can be circulated is aided in its circulation through the type of deep breathing and the Qi movement. There's a saying that where the intention goes, the mind goes, where the mind goes, the energy goes, and where the energy goes, the blood goes. So if you focus on moving Qi through the body, you're also increasing the blood flow to that area, which is healing, because that also brings fresh blood, fresh oxygen to an area, and carries away things that don't need to be there anymore. Okay, so
Right.
it's a two-pronged healing effort.
Mhm.
Okay.
I know when I was doing a lot of reading on natural healing for cancer and cancer prevention for that matter, I remember that what I learned was that the bodies of cancer patients, 100% of them are deficient in oxygen, and that cancer cells thrive on an oxygen-poor environment,
Absolutely.
a lack of oxygen, that it's difficult for the cancer cells to replicate in an oxygen-rich environment.
Correct. Interesting you bring that up, because this book, from which I originally learned my style, was written by a man who in 1975 in England was diagnosed with throat cancer, and he was already doing this style, Baudouin Genere Percocets, and you can imagine how brutal radiation therapy was back in 1975. And as he was going through the therapy, he didn't lose any weight, didn't lose any energy, didn't lose any hair. He ran every day, he did his exercises every day. And the doctors were so impressed by this that they had him teach this style of Qigong to everyone in that hospital, which was a hospital which focused on cancer. Of course, it was very much different back in 1975 than it is now, but still they focused on that, and they were very impressed with the results of Qi. And I'm going to say this very carefully, this can help very much in healing all diseases. I'm not saying it's the cure. You still go to your doctor, you still do the conventional treatment, but this can help the action of medications that you're taking. It helps the mental, the emotional process, because so many times I've had people, when I finish a class, they'll tell me, boy, I feel so calm. I could either go run a race right now, or I could lay down and go to sleep, either one. And it's very calming emotionally. The deep breath is what calms us.
Right. I've heard people say that, refer to Qigong as Chinese yoga.
It is. It's Chinese. It's really Chinese yoga. It's interesting because scholars have found writings and drawings in caves in China dating to pre-Christian times, and they were doing Qigong movements, Qigong poses. The difference between Tai Chi and Qigong is why Tai Chi now is also very much a health adjunct. Tai Chi originally started out as hidden fighting because the emperor banned, our peasants can't be allowed to know how to fight, so he banned peasants knowing, or the everyday people knowing martial arts. So the Shaolin monks took it into the monastery and they presented it as slow-moving Tai Chi. And when the soldiers would come, they'd say, oh no, not fighting, good for health. And over the process of years, they discovered it really was good for health. So Tai Chi evolved into what is now today a very wonderful health adjunct. Tai Chi, as we said earlier, involves constantly moving, where the Qigong has always been specifically oriented for health. And the movements are a little more static, or all done in one place in Qigong.
Okay. How and why did you study it, and where did you learn it?
40 years ago, I was studying karate. I'd studied Qigong for a while, and then I was studying karate. And I was happy. I was learning all the, what I refer to as chop-socky moves in the fighting. But I was looking for more. I didn't understand what I was looking for. And I walked into a bookstore that's now closed called the Book Nook in Fredonia. And they had the predecessor of this book on their sale table for $2.
Oh.
So for $2, I bought the book, I should say. And
that's almost as good as going to the used book sales at the
absolutely.
library.
In fact, this has been very much used, as you can see, with loose pages.
Oh yeah, you've had it a long time.
A long time. And I started doing, and you can learn these things from a book. The key is I've also studied with other Qigong practitioners over the years. I've presented this at chiropractors' offices, massage therapists' offices, and they've all helped me tweak it to what it is today to make it as efficient as it could be. And anyway, I found the book, I started doing it, and about 3 months after I started, my teacher called me in the office one day and asked me, "What are you doing different?" I asked him, "What do you mean?" He said, "Nobody can get through your blocks. You're hitting harder. I can hear you breathing from the office, and you're moving like a snake or a dragon. Your power's increased so much. What are you doing differently?" The only thing I was doing differently was the Qigong. So even at that stage of physical development, the results of doing this and taking seriously showed. Very much showed. And over the years, it seemed that it's like life took me down that path, because I just had more and more opportunities as I developed with it and got more knowledgeable with it. More and more opportunities to present it, in first to individuals and then in classroom situations. And I had the pleasure of teaching this on the Chautauqua summer program for about 10 years. And is this a good time to tell you 3 quick stories? Or
Is it the one about the cat?
No.
No. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can. Okay,
Okay.
because the one about the cat I want you to save for when we talk about
That's
the Reiki
Reiki.
in the second half of the program.
But I was teaching this Qigong at a chiropractor's office in Hamburg, and he came to me one day and he said, "I'm sending you my most hopeless patient." And I went into a panic. Thanks, I'm not a doctor, you know. But and when the lady came in, you could tell she was in difficulty. When she took the first class, she came up to me at the end and she said, "I have 2 things to say to you. This is crazy and you're weird." So I told her, "You're right on both counts, keep coming." And she did. And her story was that she was a teacher and she had to retire 8 years early because the pain of her fibromyalgia was so severe. And she couldn't cope without taking the heavy medications. And so she started doing the Qigong. She came 2 and 3 days a week. After about 3 months, she came in smiling one day and she said, "I want to tell you, I just had my quarterly visit with my doctor." And the doctor said, "I don't understand this. This stuff doesn't heal, but you're healing, you're getting better." And he cut her medication down to 1/3 of what it had been for the past 8 years.
Wow.
And this was the only thing different she was doing. I don't take credit for that. The Qigong gets credit for that, because she kept coming and doing it. About 5 months into the program, her husband came in and thanked me for giving him his wife back. Again, I didn't do it. It's because she had the determination to keep going with the Qigong.
Well, that's the problem with going to the doctor for everything. You know what I mean? If you just depend on the doctor to get you better, but don't do anything yourself, you're still going to have
follow
health
through.
issues, right?
Absolutely. The second quick story is I was teaching at the Chautauqua summer program, and they would put me on a week at a time. So we had gone through this was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we had gone through 4 days of instruction, and at 3 o'clock, just before he started the class, this man walked up on me and said, "I want to tell you that I'm a doctor from Washington. 3 years ago I was in a car accident." And he said, "Ever since that day, unless I take these mind-numbing drugs, I can't cope with the pain with the day." He said, "I've been to neurosurgeons, every country you can think of. Nobody's been able to help me." And he said, "I've only done this Qigong 4 days. This morning," and he said, "Remind you, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This morning I woke up without pain and I haven't taken my medication yet."
Well, that's great.
Again, the Qigong.
Yeah.
And the one that gets my attention the most is I was teaching at a yoga studio in Hamburg, and one of the Saturday participants was a very strapping, well-built young man who was a weightlifter. Well, he walked in one day like this, groaning, "Oh, you overdid it." And he said, "Yes, I went to a lifting tournament at Buffalo State last night and pushed too hard in lifting the weights, and I gave him all the precautions. Put a chair next to you, sit down when you need to, keep drinking water, do not push into pain or discomfort." He not only did the class all the way through, but he came up to me at the end and he said, "I have a question for you. Where did the pain go?"
Just during the short period of time of the one day's class.
But it makes sense because of the stretching, the movement, and deep diaphragmatic breathing pulls the acids from the muscles, from the body, and it cleanses, it circulates and cleanses everything that need to be cleansed and circulated. So I'm a lazy healing facilitator. I love teaching the people the Qigong so they can heal themselves. And really that's what it boils down to. If anyone is dealing with a health issue, and if they have the energy and the push to learn something like this and keep going with it, it's going to make a difference. And that I will say without hesitation, it will make a difference.
I remember when we had Terry Beck come to speak at one of our Vegetarian Society dinners, he taught us a little bit of Tai Chi that one evening, and then when we were finished, he told us to look at the palms of our hands, and they were all red and mottled looking, and he said that's your Qi energy.
That's the Qi, that's the energy running.
You can just see it in the palms of your hands
Yes, you can.
after an exercise session. I do a little bit of Qigong myself.
Okay.
It's part of a DVD that I exercise with quite regularly. That is the Radiant Lotus Tai Chi fan form.
Okay, I've heard
And
of it.
you've heard of it? So anyway, but the warm-ups are Qigong exercises.
Yes, they are.
One she calls the balancing movement, and there's another one called fanning hands in and up.
Okay.
And snake hands,
Okay.
and the last one is, let me see if I can think of the name of it at the moment, it's, oh gosh, well, it's because I'm on TV, I guess I'm losing my train
Surely,
of
I
thought.
understand.
But anyway, it's pretty interesting.
Excuse me for interrupting, there are 300,000 plus different styles of Qigong existing in the world today. And they cover a very wide spectrum of activities. Some involve sitting on the edge of your chair and toning and breathing in colors. I prefer the more active physical movement Qigongs, and the type you're referring to. Would you like me to demonstrate the moves in this style?
Yes, I would actually, if you're ready.
Sure, and you can follow this along if if you want to, as long as I don't pull this wire out. We're going to be okay. Okay. I always start and finish every session with a bow. The bow is not religion, it's philosophy. Okay, and there's a lot of sound philosophy behind it, but basically the bow is just simply that, just simply a bow. And my hands always come gently down the center line because I'm activating my chakras or body's energy systems. This style is done with the tongue gently against the roof of the mouth because it's very meditative. And as I said, it's all diaphragmatic breathing, and it's as relaxed as I can. We never lock a joint, always keep the joints unlocked. So basically the first movement is called scoop the stream. And as I inhale, I'm slowly inhaling and stretching up. Hold the breath in that stretch for a count of 3, and then exhale slowly down into a gentle stretch. So I feel a stretch just a bit in the shoulders, just a tiny bit. Then inhaling up, elbows as high as reasonably possible. Turning over, exhale down, again into a gentle stretch. Okay, that's the first. The second is called press the sky, and we start with the right hand on the back of the upper thigh. And as I inhale, I'm inhaling up, turn over at the mouth, follow up with my eyes, inhale, come up on the toes if I can, and then exhale down, turning over and down into a gentle cross-body stretch, and then softly flow to the opposite side. As you can see, the style is very soft, it's very flowing. And while it doesn't seem it, there's a great deal of strength in the soft flowing of this style. The third, we're not supposed to have favorites, but I'm not that evolved, so this is my favorite. This is called the Shaolin Archer. So as I inhale, my left arm floats up to shoulder height, hold that position for the 3 count, then I exhale across the front. Bring the energy up, that's the Tai Chi movement. Hold the breath for 3, and then inhaling, draw the bow. Then exhale back across the front. Again, bring the energy up. Inhaling. Draw the bow. The fourth is called Search the Clouds, and it's a very great benefit for the digestive area and the spine to some extent. And in Search the Clouds, as I inhale, I'm bending to the left and rear as far as reasonably possible. Hold that for the 3 count. Then exhale back up, and then repeating it to the right. I'm doing it a little faster than I actually would in a class. This, by the way, this style helps to balance left and right brain function, because whatever we do on one side, we try to do equally on the other. So the fifth of our 8 precious sets is simply a cat stretch. It's called Lift the Rock. So I'm inhaling up. Nice open stretch. And then exhaling down. And again, feeling the stretch gently in the shoulders. The next is, every style has its own uniting heaven and earth movement, and that's what this is in this style. This is called Touch the Sky, Press the Earth. So I'm inhaling up. Exhale down to the floor. Gentle bend in the knees. And here I hold the breath for a count of 5. Then my head down, back rounded. Inhale up. And exhale. The next move is the one that throws everybody. It's called Eye of the Tiger.
Oh, I like to watch you do that
like
one,
that one,
yeah.
okay. In Eye of the Tiger, we'll see how my balance is today, but in Eye of the Tiger, as I'm inhaling, I'm coming up on the toes and turning my head to the left and rear as far as it'll reasonably go. Hold it for 3. Exhale back. And then to the right. And back. Pardon me, and I've only been demonstrating one of each. We do either 4 or 8 of each one of these movements throughout the series, the full series. And the last of our 8 precious sets is called Grip the Swallow's Egg, and it's actually a grounding exercise. I step into a wider but gentle horse stance, and it's as if I am literally holding a small egg in the palm of my hand as I form a very tight fist around it. And I start in the standard martial arts punch position. The difference in this style is as I punch out with an open fist, I'm inhaling. So inhaling, punching out, turn over, very tight fist, hold it for 1, 2, 3. Exhale back, very soft fist. Hold the breath for the 3 count, then inhaling out with the right. Very tight fist. Turn over, exhale back. Then to finish, the left foot remains in place. We pivot on the ball of the right. And I'm going to do this much more quickly. Inhaling out, tight fist. Exhaling back. Inhaling out, tight fist. Exhaling back. Pivoting back to the front, then the opposite direction, of course. Inhaling out. And as I said, I'm doing this much more quickly than we actually would in a classroom situation. And back. And then to finish, deep inhalation, hands on the lower dantian. Visualize breathing down into the lower dantian, because this style tends to make you a little bit meditative, a little bit heady. The deeper breathing helps to return you back to this reality so we don't walk into a tree. And then I always finish with the bow. And aside from traditional reasons and meanings for the bow, one of the philosophical and grounded reasons for the bow is you can walk into a classroom, your dog ate the cat, you know, your child ran away and you can't find him, and your son just dented your brand new car. You can have all those, I'm being silly, but you can have all those things going through your mind, and still when you walk in, you do that bow, it's like your full attention comes right there with you so that you get the most benefit of what you're doing. It doesn't change those things that are happening in the outside world, but it changes where your intention is, so you're really getting by what you're doing. Okay, and as I said, that's been a very, very fast demonstration of what the 8 sets are. And
you teach classes then.
I do.
In this, where are you going to be doing that then?
Well, I'm presently teaching classes at Yoga Underground on Lakeshore Drive in Dunkirk from 8:30 to 9:30 Monday evenings. I don't know if that's going to show up or not for you, but that's one place. And the other place, starting Thursday evening, June 23rd, I'm also, every Thursday from 7 to 8 in the evening, I will be teaching at Fellowships of the Spirit Learning Center in Casadega, which is just outside of the Lilydale facility.
Okay.
Those are the 2 places for the Qigong.
I was going to tell a story about the time that you were teaching us some Qigong exercises at one of our Vegetarian Society dinners one night. Those of you who saw the last episode of my TV show saw a little boy named Clint Dinshaw. And I remember he and his mother Ann were there when Tony was leading us through the exercises. And Clint kept running back and forth in front of Tony and laughing. He stole the whole show from you, Tony.
He sure did.
So anyway, I was saying something to Ann about that last week, and she said, "Well, what was the man's name?" She goes, and I said, "Tony Kozlowski." And she goes, "Oh, we're really good friends with Tony." That's why he was doing that. So he's a cute little rascal. She spoke at our dinner at the June dinner, and I remember there were some ladies at dinner that had been joking around with Clint, and when he knew they were getting ready to leave, he took one of the ladies' jackets and ran outside with it and hid it in the shrubbery.
That's the Clint. He doesn't need Qigong. He has more than enough energy to share with all of us. Yeah.
He's a little rascal, all right. Okay. Let's move along to Reiki now.
Okay.
Tell us what Reiki is.
Reiki?
I'm not sure I can explain it. I've had people ask me what Reiki is, and it's like I don't know how to put it into words. I just know it works from personal experience.
Reiki is one of many, many spiritual and energetic healing styles. The difference with Reiki is that you can read all the Reiki books you want, but until you've been attuned by someone who's already been attuned themselves, you're not doing Reiki. If someone reads all these books and puts their hands on and sends, Creator's healing love to the person, they're sending healing love, but they're not doing Reiki. It's not better than, it's just another very wonderful form of spiritual and physical healing. And back in the mid-1800s, a man named Mikao Usui was really unhappy because he had a failed business. So he said, that's it. He went off to a cave and he meditated for 21 days. At least that's one of the legends surrounding the beginning. And at the last day, he said as he was meditating, he saw these symbols come at him in his meditation, and he heard use these. So he didn't really codify it, he just did it. But he wanted to do something to help, so he went down to the slums in the city where he lived, and he was doing Reiki on the homeless people there. He said there were miracles of healing occurring when he did the Reiki, but he noticed that when he'd come back there a month later, the same people would be back there with the same issues. And he said, they're not taking it seriously. So that's when he decided, okay, people need to invest in their own healing, so from now on you don't do Reiki without some sort of energy change. So he would start charging, and that's where the concept of charging for Reiki came from. You're not charging for the healing necessarily, you're charging for the healer's time, and so that there is an honest energy interchange of some type. And I think it was 1923, I might have the date wrong, but there was a very serious earthquake in Japan. A lot of lives were lost. The place was devastated. And he took it to the streets and was having such great success with it that he said, okay, we have to pass this on. Then he started teaching and sharing it with Reiki practitioners. But the key with Reiki is that you have to seek out a Reiki practitioner who has themselves been attuned, and then they will attune you. And there are three degrees in Reiki. There's the first, which has to do with mainly with internal and self-healing. Then there's the second degree is the emotional and spiritual healing. Then the third is healing everything, mind, body, cosmos, the earth we live on, everything. And the way it usually works is a person will take the first degree and then work with that energy for 6 months to a year. And then when they feel ready, or the teacher feels ready, then they will take the second degree, which puts more energy into their healing process, and then down the road the third. I would compare Reiki to, well, not I, that statement comes right from the book here, but Reiki is very much like taking a 10-watt light bulb and getting the first degree, and that 10-watt becomes a 100-watt light bulb. When you take the second degree, it becomes a 200-watt light bulb, and then when you take the third degree, a 300-watt. In other words, the energy that your physical body and that your consciousness is capable of passing through to a recipient grows exponentially with your experience with doing Reiki and with the attunements. And there are a set of very codified symbols that you learn for each degree. And the beauty of Reiki is that you don't even have to really be mentally present. If, let's say, this was a healing table and there was somebody sitting on there and I just wasn't feeling totally up to snuff that day, and worry, oh gosh, I'm not totally present, should I do this? You clear your energy as much as possible, you put your hands on the person, and you do the Reiki symbols. Now, of course, it's best case scenario if you're totally in good state yourself.
Yeah.
But basically, you put your hands on the person, you do the Reiki symbols, and it happens. People would say God does it, Creator does it, the universe does it. It doesn't matter, because it's a very positive, wonderful healing energy. And keep your hands, and you will get to the point where you'll feel it's no longer needed here. So you move the hands down to someplace else on the body. And the average Reiki treatment can last anywhere from half an hour to an hour, sometimes more depending on what's going on. But it's very codified, and it's very useful that way, because people who have not done hands-on healing or that kind of energy work before have an absolute roadmap of where to go with that energy. That's the advantage it has over, say, going to the healing temple and doing hands-on. There's so much you don't have to learn, so much focus you don't have to work with Reiki. So, and the two books that I would really recommend if you have any viewers out there interested in Reiki, one is Essential Reiki by Diane Stein, excellent, and one that I feel is almost better is the Reiki Teacher's Manual by Tina Zion. And anyone can buy either one of these books, read the books, and understand Reiki totally. They're so well written. The point is, if someone reads the book and wants to do Reiki, you have to find a Reiki practitioner and get attuned to do it. Okay.
Now this opens up some sort of channel or something?
Basically it does. Yes, it opens up a flow of energy for you. And those on the other levels who work with the healing energy know what we're ready for. That they know how much energy we can handle going, because it involves our nervous system. When you're doing that kind of energy work, it really involves your nervous system. And for someone to jump into, say, Reiki 3 without spending a lot of time doing it, they can actually experience debilitating problems with it.
Oh, yeah. It sounds a lot like in yoga, where you can have your Kundalini awakened.
Exactly.
But in order for it to be safe, this has to be done through an enlightened master.
Exactly. Right.
Otherwise, it's not safe. you can damage yourself. But
to put it in blunt terms, you can fry your nervous system. And that's kind of gross, but really, in the early days of doing Qigong, I thought more was better. So I was doing power breathing, and I had a Kundalini release, and it was not fun. But I was spared because it didn't cause me any major issues, except I learned, stay with the protocol that Qigong teaches you and don't force it. And then it was fine after that. But it's a serious issue. It's not one to be fooled with because you're releasing a lot of energy. As far as a Kundalini release, a Qigong master would say, well, you relieved a blockage and just too much energy came up. So different terms for the same energy flow. But the Qi and the Kundalini is very real in our bodies. We can't see the electricity that's powering the cameras and the lights here, but it's very real. The same thing with that Kundalini and the Qi. It's very, very real, but we don't see it. And in our culture, we're not used to working with it, although it's becoming more open, more prevalent, which is wonderful.
Yeah, you hear about it more and more these days. I don't know if you know her or not. There's a woman, I can't think of her last name for some reason. Her first name is Gail, and she lives in Forestville, and her husband's name is Dana. Do you know them?
I don't know those folks. No, I don't.
Well, anyway, she became a Reiki therapist because her son, as a teenager, came down with some sort of a health issue, and he wasn't supposed to even be living into his 20s. So she, you know, I guess they'd been told there was nothing that the medical profession was going to be able to do for him. But she found out about a Reiki therapist, and she took him to a Reiki therapist, and she wound up actually becoming a Reiki therapist. Because of the cost of the Reiki or something, she actually became one herself so she could continue the treatments on her son. But anyway, the Reiki actually did save his life, and he's at least way up in his 20s, maybe early 30s or something like that now. And I don't remember what the particular health issue was or anything. I wish I did remember all of those details. But so now she, the whole family just really believes in it now.
Oh, it's absolutely. In today's world, it's wonderful what's going on because more and more veterinarians are getting a Reiki certified person on their staff to work with animals because animals prove Reiki. More and more hospitals are getting Reiki certified nurses. And I once attuned a nurse with Reiki, and she said, "Okay, what can I do with this?" I said, "Well, and aside from going into the room and just touching the person, say, hoping you're having a wonderful day, and you're sending healing as you do that, you can put it into their medications, you can put it into the food, you can put it into the clothing, the bedclothes. You can just bless those clothings, the bedclothes with Reiki energy. So, and they're getting some degree of that. And you can also, you learn to send it distant also. Okay, the third degree teaches. So
you don't, third degree, you actually don't have to see the person personally.
Don't have to be there. No. And Reiki evolves. As it, some people go through the individual steps as they do it, and others, they do the first one, and they're already ready for the second or third. It depends on the person. But it's really wonderful the way Reiki is spreading and being accepted. In terms of the money involved, I made a comment about Master Sui saying there has to be exchange of energy. When I was doing Reiki attunements, because I believe this needs to be shared, I would charge 33 for one, 55 for two, and 77 for three, sort of master numbers. Madam Tanaka, who took over after Masao Sui died and spread Reiki, would teach Reiki 3 for $10,000 because she said, you rich Americans need to value this, so you're going to pay so that you will value it. So there's a lot of that feeling of making the recipient really value what they're being gifted with and what they receive, and that's why the financial structure is as it is. I think some people get a bit carried away with their costs, but for the most part, I understand, where that's coming from with Reiki. There are, first of all, I'm sure that the lady in Forceville that you mentioned, almost everywhere you turn in today's world, there's a Reiki practitioner someplace. And I'm leading a meditation group down at the Inner Balance Wellness Center in Dunkirk. And there are at least 2 people there that are Reiki certified, can provide the attunements. Someone made a comment once, I would like to see Reiki taught in the high schools. And in school, I mean, they said, I think that would be a great idea. Even if a person didn't want to have anything to do with it again in their life, to be taught that in school and to have that available to them, I think this would make it a better world. Yeah, it really would. Do you want me to tell the story about the cat?
Yeah,
Reiki?
go ahead.
My brother and sister-in-law wanted to take vacation in Florida, so they asked me to take care of their 2 dogs and 2 cats. One of the cats had been shot by the neighbor, and a little bit of the bullet was still near its spine and its back hip, and the cat walked with a limp. Well, they asked me to come and take care of the animals for them, which I did, and the cat got a little bit bullied. The other animals would eat its food, so I'd put its food up on the very wide window ledge, and first couple of days I picked him up there. Afterwards he jumped up himself. But as the cat was sitting, he was a little hesitant to eat because I was a different energy. He wasn't used to me. So I would just gently pat him to his body. Then I'd come down the side. And then the thought of what I was doing hit me, so I brought my hand slightly off the body, but I would send the healing. And this is all I did. I just visualized Reiki healing going to the cat, and I gently stroked. Sometimes stroked its body, but sometimes on the outside. That cat would keep on eating, but start purring. And it got to the point where if it jumped up on the ledge and I wasn't doing this, it would look at me like, well. And seriously, and I did that for about 2 weeks. And when my brother and sister-in-law got home, she called me about 3 days after she got home. She asked me, what did you do to my cat? And I said, well, I fed it and gave it attention. Why? Because the tone of her voice was very accusatory. She said, my cat's not limping anymore. What did you do to it? And you can't talk about belief systems or anything else with an animal. They're pure proof of how Reiki works. That is why more veterinarians are getting Reiki certified people to work on their animals. But it can be applied to everything. You can Reiki your water before you drink it. You can Reiki your food. And you're changing the vibration. And you know how our food gets kind of beaten up if we're eating processed food, the box of cereal or the can of food or whatever. It's handled by so many people in different states of mind, different energies.
Right.
And I believe that's real energy, and that kind of goes into the food. Not that you're going to curse the food, but still, you're putting a less than positive energy. Oh, I'm having a rough day, and I slam that bag of cereal or something like that. When you do the Reiki healing, you shift that energy, so you're getting the purest amount of nutrition that you can from the food. So there's almost nothing you can't Reiki. And whether it's Reiki or standard laying out of hands healing, it's all beautiful, it all works. Everybody can heal just by focusing. Rub your hands, bring up the chi, put your hands on someone's shoulders, and just send them love. Send them God's love, send them universal love, whatever it means to you. Anyone can heal. But if you want the advantage of not having to focus on the energy, Reiki is nice for that, because it kind of it happens just by doing the symbols.
Yeah.
And I was healing at the healing temple in Lilydale one year, and I'll never forget this. And I was doing spiritual healing, asking the spirit to do their work. I felt the chi running through me to the person, and I heard loud and clear, do the Reiki symbols on this spot. So, it's all healing. It's all wonderful stuff.
Well, I remember we had Tony Jo Mitchell from Fredonia.
She's good. She's excellent.
Come to speak one time at one of our Vegetarian Society dinners, and when she asked for a volunteer, to demonstrate on, I volunteered, of course, and I'd been feeling really tight on the left side of my neck and through my left shoulder, and I can usually kind of tell if it was something that I needed to see the chiropractor for, or if something or if it was something that would clear up or not. And I figured I'd be calling the chiropractor the next morning because that's how tight it felt. And she asked me if I had any pain anywhere, and I told her there, and she put her hands on there, on me, and on the neck and the shoulder. Just held it on there for a little while, and she's like not really even paying attention, you know. She's got her hands there, but she's talking to other people, you know. And
absolutely,
seriously, I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that I was going to have to call a chiropractor in the morning. And I wake up that morning, and the pain is completely gone. The Reiki energy had made the adjustment, so I wound up not going to the chiropractor. Good. But it worked, so I know it does work.
You can do Reiki on yourself, but it's more effective if someone else does it. Just the flow is different. But as I said, there's nothing you can't Reiki. And the same with Qigong, because I'm older and my eyes aren't quite what they are, and I could use some denture help. One of the things I start with in the morning is I have an entire Qigong thing that I go through, and one of them that I do is bring up the Qi and just do this. Move the energy through my eyes, the healing energy, without even touching. And sometime when you're feeling you want to, try that. Just bring up the Qi, then move your hands slowly and pay attention to how it feels.
Well, we do something similar to that in yoga, where we rub the hands. It's after you do eye exercises, where you exercise your eyes. We do that, and they call it palming, and then you just hold the hands over the eyes like this. And it does feel really good, you know.
And that's basically what you're doing, aside from other processes in there. In yoga, the energy is called prana. In Qigong, it's called Qi. It's the same energy. But basically, you're passing that healing energy into your eyes when you're palming like that. There's an incredible amount of similarities between yoga and Qigong, and they're both yoga, truthfully. But I think it's a pretty wonderful combination to have the availability of Qigong and Reiki, you know, and the other healing forms. And curiously, there are a lot of healing forms out there, therapeutic touch, dynamic touch, and all that. Those styles don't really focus on the touch. Reiki focuses, not totally, but Reiki focuses on the touch, hands-on. Reiki encourages hands-on. And then when you get up into the upper levels, the third level, you can still do remote healing or distance healing, and it will be effective. But Reiki really works a great deal with the touch. And having worked in the healing temple, I can tell you there were times when we're not a touch society very much anymore. And people would sit down at the healing bench where I served, and I put my, say my prayer and put my hands against them. You could just feel them soak back into your hands because they're experiencing a safe, healing, loving touch. And it was amazing how you'd almost feel their body just melt around your hands when you touch them in that environment, that energy.
I know in certain variations of the Christian religion, there are people that have a problem with the idea of things like Reiki and acupuncture and like that, where they say that so-called miraculous things can't happen. They could only happen in biblical times, and if it's done now, it comes from the devil. How did all of that happen to get started, would you say?
Quite frankly, in my awareness, my opinion, it came from, number one, fear, and number two, the churches wanting to be in control. Not spirituality, but religions wanting to be in control. And if you learned a system like this and could take care of you, the church couldn't control you anymore. And again, I'm talking about the difference between spirituality versus a structured religion. But that's kind of how that started, and it just spread and spread and spread. And through lack of understanding and education and fear. But it's my personal belief that all these things come from God, come from Creator. And we're given the gift of Qi. It took the Chinese a few years to share it with us, but we're given the gift of Reiki. We're given the gift, of energy healing and to help other people. And in my belief system, it all comes from God.
Right.
You know, and spiritualists will tell you all healing comes from God. Well, it may come through the tool of Reiki, or it may come through the tool of Qigong. But yes, it all comes from a higher source eventually. It just comes through in ways that help us each understand it better, and those who are receiving it accept it better. But it's unfortunate that that concept of all this coming from Satan, it's the work of the devil, I don't believe that a bit. In fact, there were a lot of ladies back in the Dark Ages who were killed because they were helping people with herbs. They go out and pick out a herb and help somebody who's suffering, so they end up getting burned at the stake for it. And it's really unfortunate that, you know, public opinion took that direction, but that's all an outbreak of, or an outreaching rather, of fear, and of the churches. And I'm not anti-church, I don't mean that, but the churches want to establish and hold their power. And I'm sure, you know, I'm going to agitate some people by saying these things, but it's the truth. The greatest spirituality is when you let it come through you. You don't need the church telling you that. I belong to a church, but you don't need the church coming through you and telling you how to live your life. If you're really connected with Source, whatever word you think of as being connected with Source, when you're letting it through you, there's nothing wrong with that energy. And if it's helping people, truly helping them, you know, and turning it into a awareness of a better energy, you know it's coming from a good place.
Right, right. I wanted to bring up the first time that I met you was actually the time that we had Tony Joe Mitchell come to speak at our Vegetarian Society dinner, and you came to our dinner that night, and that was the first time I remember meeting you. Maybe that was the reason you came, because of the topic?
I was in her store, and Tony Joe told me she'd be presenting, so I kind of came to support her.
Oh, okay. Okay. But I remember that you brought something called mushroom tea.
Oh, kombucha mushroom tea, yes.
So I guess that's a fermented beverage?
It's fermented. What you do is boil 4 quarts of water, add a certain amount of sugar to it, and then you have to start with a mushroom, which it looks like a flat pancake. And you put it in whatever size container you're using, wider the better, and cover it with cheesecloth and put it in a dark place for about 3 weeks.
Oh.
And what happens is that the mushroom converts the sugars, and it actually grows a second mushroom. So you'll end up with 2 pancakes in your container. And after about 3 weeks, you take them out, you strain the tea and drink it. And of course, you can get different teas by experimenting with different teas that you use for it, or by the length of time. But and what happens is you end up with a heck of a collection of mushrooms as you brew that, because every time you do it, you create another mushroom. And I think I ended up with 6 containers on my shelf one time, each growing a new mushroom, thinking, what am I going to do with all these guys? You know? And basically, for the most part, you can give them away to people, and they can start their own cultures. Or you can just put them on your compost pile and return them to the earth, because it's good nutrition, you know, which is very beneficial. But the tea is very energizing. It's very healing. It helps very much with digestion. And in fact, I used to, when I lived, the few years I lived in Lilydale, I used to give one of my friends tea. He made a comment about, you know, running out of energy during the day. So I'd take him over a large container, and you have any more of that? I really feel good after drinking that. So it does help with not only digestion but energy. The one aspect to be aware of is that it does tend to acidify the system a little bit.
Oh, does it really?
So you need to just monitor what you're eating so that your system is staying a little more.
So it's pH balanced.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't have a well-balanced pH from all of the illnesses
and there are
in the world these days, you know.
You can go to a fish supply store and get the little what are the little strips to test the
Oh, the pH
pH,
testing
the
strips,
You
yeah.
can get strips, or you can get a chemical in which you test. But those pH strips are nice because you just hold it on your tongue for a while and take it out and look at the color. And of course, there's a color chart, and that'll tell you
Right.
whether your system is acidic or alkaline. And when I brewed the tea and drank it, I would do that about once a week and check it. And if I find my system going toward acidity too much, I would then modify what I was eating a bit to bring it back to more alkalinity. But the health benefits of the kombucha mushroom tea definitely outweighed having to balance that acidity alkalinity.
Yeah, I remember when you brought that, I was afraid to drink it because I thought it seemed to taste to me sort of like an alcoholic beverage, and I can't really get away with drinking alcoholic beverages, so I was afraid to drink it because I get anxiety attacks if I drink alcoholic beverages, so I didn't drink a whole glass of it for that reason. I took a sip of somebody else's, and I thought, well, maybe I better not. Do you have any experiences with anybody ever getting drunk on it or anything? No?
I've never had any experience with anyone getting drunk, and quite frankly, it has such a taste and consistency that I don't think most people really could drink too much of it. It's kind of sets its own limit, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see.
As you drink it, it's like you reach a point, oh, I've had enough, I just don't want to drink anymore.
Yeah.
As good as it is. I've never had anyone get drunk on it. The alcohol content isn't that great, and it's different. I've given it very carefully to alcohol intolerant people, and they've never had an issue, but they haven't taken in copious amounts of it. Okay.
Yeah, we're down to our last half a minute about of the program, and I wanted to say thank you for coming on today. It's been very
for
informative. Yes, it's been fun, and maybe we can have you back again sometime to.
To all you churches out there who it seems I took a shot at, I love you. You're good. Keep up the good work you're doing.
And I'll see the rest of you in a couple of weeks then.
Okay.
Have a good week.
Mm-hmm.